guys, you know Charlie Sheen, he used to always talk about, I'm winning, I'm a winner. There's a lot of guys here in the Philippines who feel like the big L word, the loser. You know, they just didn't make it. There's a big difference between winning and losing, and I want to talk to you about how a lot of men end up losing, how they make the wrong choice when they come here to the Philippines, and they end up going back to their home country feeling like a loser. They feel like life has let them down. But a lot of the reasons this happens is people come here, they have a false expectation of what the Philippines is like. Now, maybe that's the fault of me and other bloggers similar to me who talk about paradise. We talk about the beach, how there are pretty girls on every corner, how cheap it is to live here, how enjoyable of an experience it is, how we're having the greatest time of our life. And a lot of that is lies, a lot of that is untruths, a lot of it is misleading. Guys come here thinking everybody's going to treat them like royalty. They're going to come here thinking because they're a foreigner and because they're older and they're retired, people are going to give them a lot of respect. People are going to appreciate them because they're older. You know, we always talk about the respect older people get when they come here to the Philippines. Well, respect, you can get some respect when you first get here, but respect is earned. And it's so easy to lose respect. You could take days, weeks, months, years building respect and trust with somebody, and you can lose it all in one day. Just one outburst of anger, too much to drink, and say the wrong things, and you can lose a lot of respect from people where you think you're always going to be respected here because of your age and where you come from. You know, I'm an American. I'm here in your country, supporting your country, and the expectations aren't here. People expect to live on a beach and have a great life with a Mai Tai, a coconut with an umbrella in it and a straw, and drinking great drinks with these beautiful exotic island girls bringing them their drinks and smiling at them and making them feel very important. Well, that doesn't happen. A lot of times you're on the beach, you're walking, it's a hot sunny day, and if you want something to drink, you got to go find a local bar or a local resort close to the beach, get your drink, pay a high price because you thought everything was cheap when you got here. Your expectations were everything was cheaper. You thought rent was really cheap. You were thinking, boy, I can get a place to live there for $100 a month. And maybe you can get a place for $100 a month, but it's nothing that you're used to. You know, it has holes in the walls, it has bugs in the sink, you know, ants crawling on the floor, a lot of negatives to cheap places to live. So the cost of living here, you were thinking it was like $800 a month and you were going to live like a king and be treated like a king. So those expectations can be dashed right away. And that false expectations, the false hopes, but the realities of life here in the Philippines might not be what you were hoping for. Very misleading, a lot of bloggers, me, many other people, stories you've heard, guys who have come back to the U.S. and maybe you talk to them, they're just going to talk to you about the highlights of their trip here. Not always the most beautiful place in the world, and it's not always the most exotic. It's just a place to live, and life goes on here. Everyday life goes on. People have an everyday life, and it's really easy to lose contact with what you thought paradise was going to be to what living here is like. It's two different things, the 2-week vacation, 2-week millionaire, and life as a whole, coming here to live full-time. Two different things, and the expectations, like I've said, a lot of guys, it just doesn't live up to all the hype. And then there's the relationship disasters that happen here all the time. Men jump into a relationship easy, you know, the first pretty girl that smiles at them, the first girl that gives them a back rub, the first girl that gives them something they haven't had for ages. You know, the ability to be with a beautiful younger woman. You know, once you get into your 60s and your 70s and you're saying to yourself when you're sitting on the couch back home, I'll never be with a beautiful woman again. Well, boom, there is one. And you have man, all of a sudden, all the other negative things that have happened to you, the cost of your rent, the cost of, everything else, the poverty, pollution, all these little negative things that bother you, all of a sudden, you've had a change of heart, man. You're saying, wow, I have this beautiful woman in my life now. I'm going to be happy forever. Everything else I can deal with. But the guys ignore all the red flags, the attention that they get, but she's still cold. She doesn't give you attention 24/7. All the jealousy, where she tries to control you, this overspending, no respect for your money, no respect for what you want to do. It's always me, me, me. The girl's always, wanting something. Let's go see my family. You go to the family, and it's to buy a bunch of gifts before you get there. And the red flags of a bad family, the red flags of a bad relationship. And a lot of guys say, this is the best I've ever had, and then you learn to find out the girl's just laying there saying, hey, hurry up and get it over with. I want to hurry this up. So, the affection and the emotion of somebody you really care for ends up being a one-way street, and you don't read the red flags, the warning signs that a lot of guys have talked about. Even on my channel, we've talked about the red flags of a relationship, and you end up in a bad relationship. You end up losing a lot of money. You have no control over the woman. It ends up being that you only have $200 or $300 a month, and she has $1,000, because you're trying to keep her happy and you're spending all your money on her. The red flags of a bad relationship. You end up meeting that girl that's got 2 kids back home, has a boyfriend back home. She's married and separated, and you thought she was single. All these signs of a bad relationship will cause you as a man to give up and just call yourself a loser, man. The Philippines wasn't for me. You weren't thinking with your head. Your priorities were wrong. You were mistaking attention to affection. She's just showing you a lot of attention and being close to you, but she's not being affectionate to you. She's not. She's not the girl for you, but you don't see it. Your friends see it. Other foreigners see it, but you don't. Your eyes are closed to that. You end up marrying somebody you hardly know. You really don't know this person. You haven't given it enough time. And because of that, you end up in a situation where you lose everything, or you lose almost everything, and you have no other choice but to leave. And where are you going to go? You're not a winner. You came here, you met somebody, you got married too soon, you got involved with somebody too soon, you lost a lot of your money, you don't have enough money to keep living here. You're not the winner anymore. You end up with an L on your forehead because you were a loser. You made the wrong choices, and you lost control of your money. That is a big thing here. Losing control of your money with a partner is terrible. When you first meet somebody, you got to set down those ground rules of the money management. But prior to meeting that person, you probably made a ton of mistakes. You overspent on your first year here. You bought too much stuff. You were buying a brand new motorbike. Maybe you bought a car. You're living in a house or an apartment you can't afford. You need to downgrade. Maybe you've rented one place on one island for a year. You give a couple months deposit, and then you find a girl on a different island, and you got to leave. You got to go meet that girl on a different island, and you give up all your deposit and security money. You give up everything you bought. You bought some frying pans, you bought a coffee pot, you bought a microwave. All this stuff you spent money on at first until you knew exactly where you're going to live. You end up giving it away or just leaving it because you're chasing some girl on a different island. You're traveling, you're getting on a ferry. Hopefully you have the title to your motorbike and registered, and you take that with you to the next island. And you go to start over again, and you go through the same scenario again. You get an apartment or a house, and you rent it, and you leave a security deposit. You start buying stuff again. Your money management is terrible. If you don't have good money management, you're going to end up being one of the losers leaving here. And when it comes to your wife or girlfriend, don't be the guy who says, here's You have all the money. I just need a couple hundred to, 10,000 pesos to survive for the month because I'm just going to go out and have a beer with the guys, or I'm going to have some coffee with the guys. You take care of all the other bills. You pay the electric, you pay the rent, you pay everything else. But when you do that, you still have to be in control. You need to be in control of your money all the time. And one of the big things that marks guys as losers is they lose track of their money. Their wife or their girlfriend is in total control. And the guy ends up complaining about it all the time. My partner, she spends all the money. I don't know where it all goes. I give it to her, and then by the 15th of the month, we're broke. Well, dude, you're supposed to be in charge of your money. Your money is the only thing you have to survive here. You need your cash. You have to be in control. That's the one thing you have to maintain control. You can share that money with somebody. You can let her handle the electric bill and go and grocery shopping. But my God, look at the receipt. Look at what was purchased. If you gave her 4,000 pesos to go grocery shopping and she comes home and says there's no change and the receipt says 1,200, where the rest of it go? You need to be in control. And I'm not saying be a jerk about it, but there's nothing wrong with accountability. Trust, but verify. Greatest words ever said by Ronald Reagan. Trust, but verify. And so many guys go broke here because of many things. One, keeping up with the Joneses. But worse than that, they become a Jones. They say, I want to have the best car. I want to have the best motorbike. I want to have top of the line motorbike. I don't want to buy what everybody else has that is economical, which is affordable, and quality made items. They want something special. And also buying land and building a house. So many guys jump into that too quickly and they don't really think it over. Are they ready to do it? Are they committed to do that? Do they have the finances to do that? One of the big mistakes, I've seen a couple guys leave here who have bought land with the hopes of building a house in the near future. And then next thing you know, they can't afford it. And they need to leave because their money is run out. And they have to give up on that land. And maybe they do get a chance to sell it, but it's at a fraction of the value. Guys, as a expat here in the Philippines, if I want to buy something, I go looking at all the guys who are leaving town. I get the best deal from guys who are bugging out and they're selling their color TV, or they're selling their motorbike, or they're selling a lounge chair, or they're selling something because it's all at a discount because they're leaving and they can't take it with them. Once the money goes, so does the smile of all the people around them. Once you're broke, people are going to start avoiding you. Once other expats know that you lost control of your money, you can't afford nothing, they're not going to invite you along all the time because they know at the end of the meal they have to pick up the tab. They don't mind doing it once or twice, but once it becomes an everyday thing, every time we get together, I have to pick up the tab for you because you can't afford it. It gets old, and slowly you're not invited to these gatherings anymore. When the wallet closes and there's nothing in it, all the doors close too. Your ability to get taken care of in a hospital, a lot of things you want to do travel-wise, all these disappear. So running out of money, not because your budget was not good enough, not because your income was not good enough. It's because you mismanaged what you had. You let other people take control. You misspent in the beginning thinking, hey, I got X amount of money in my savings account. I can afford this, this, and this. And then you buy too much stuff. And, you got to slow down and think careful before you buy stuff. That's how losers are born here in the Philippines. They come here and, what's the saying? They lead with their wallet. And not just to impress the girl. They're not trying to impress the girl, but they're trying to impress other expats. They're trying to prove they have more than the other guy. The one thing I always hear people tell me when we talk about the exchange rate is everybody's sent all their money over here when the exchange rate was at 58 or 59. I don't talk to anybody who, oh my God, I had to send money over here and I got stuck at the lower rate. No, everybody's done the right thing, really. Around the coffee table they have, but in life, They really haven't. You know, what people tell you and what the reality of life is two different things. I'll tell you the story of one guy come here. He met me and Janet for coffee. He bragged about how much money he had. This girl he was going to meet, she's another blogger, said that this girl will never have to work again. I'm going to take good care of her. I got plenty of money, and, you know, we're going to get a car. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And then a couple months later, he calls me and asks me if he can borrow a few $100s. If you're so rich, what do you got to borrow a couple $100s from me? So one of two things there. Either he blew all his money, which he didn't, because he didn't have it. Rich people or people who are well off never talk about their money. Now, they might talk about, hey, this is the better way to transfer your money. They might talk about what bank they use, but they're never going to tell you, I'm so well off, I'm going to do this, this, and this in the future. Those who brag usually don't have. So for the biggest percentage of losers here, it's those who thought they could get happiness with their money and they led with their wallet. That is the number one cause for losers, is you run out of your money. Don't be a loser. Don't run out of money. Budget yourself. You know what's coming down the pike. You know if you have a check coming or not coming. And be prepared for the worst. You know the old saying, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. So now the guy has gone through a total financial disaster. Paradise is in paradise. You know, it's not everything he expected. He's going to start to have an emotional breakdown. And it might not be like mental hospital type emotional breakdown, but he's going to start to realize he's not going to make it here. It's not fun anymore. He's not having a good time. He's just existing. And by just existing, it's not good, man. You have to have hobbies. You have to have something you enjoy doing. You have to have a future here in the Philippines. The future could be as little as you and your wife just taking day trips around Dumaguete or Cebu Island, or it can be as much as you're traveling out of the country once a year or once every 6 months. But because you blew through all your money and because it's not what you expected, there's nowhere you want to go. You know, there's no beautiful beach you want to see anymore. And, you know, each day is just, I wake up, I drink my coffee, you know, I wander around the house in my underwear and my pajamas, and then you wait for lunch, then you wait for dinner, and then you go to bed. You're on the hamster wheel here. You're living Groundhog Day every day here, and the only excitement you get is at the first of the month when your Social Security check pops in and you got a little bit of extra money, and you guys go out and get a meal or something until it's all gone again. And it doesn't take long to be gone because you've mismanaged your money all along and you're not going to start now. So emotionally, you refuse to ask for help. You don't go around to friends that you made. And that's where you need to build that community. You know, you get here and you're just so full of yourself sometimes, you don't build a good community. A handful of expats that you can trust, not people you can go and borrow money from. Not people that you have an agenda with, something you want from them, but genuine friends that you can go and talk to. No, you're not going to ask them for anything outrageous. It's just friendship and a community you developed. It could be one other guy. It could be a handful of other guys. It could be a whole bar, you know, but if they're good people. And this community, you can build strength from the community. And these guys who are losers here, who end up isolated and alone, and can't ask for help because they have no community, they end up with that big L sign because they have no one to talk to about the hard times they're having. And sometimes they just have too much pride. They don't want to tell their friends, hey, I let my wife take all my money. I spent all my money. I gave it to a relative and they were going to pay me back. Or I invested in a business. You know, all these things that people can do to become failures here in the Philippines. And they have so much pride. They always want to act like they have plenty of money and plenty of everything, that life is so good, but it's not good. And there's nothing wrong with talking to a good friend, telling them, hey, I think I failed at this. I'm having trouble. And some guys just have too much, they're ashamed of themselves and they don't want to admit that they're a failure, that this didn't work out for them. And they keep sitting at home thinking, man, I should just get on a plane and go home. This isn't working for me. There's no future here. I'm not happy. So after he quits trying, what's up now? He's headed home. He's given up. He's a loser. He has failed at living here in the Philippines. He has to head back home and face what he's always feared, failure. You know, he's going to have to listen to his siblings, his kids, friends, family, neighbors, if he stays in touch with everybody. And he's back, and he has to explain to them what happened. Some of the guys just leave here quietly. You know, they're just gone. You know, where did Bill go? Where did Bob go? I don't know. I don't see him no more. And somebody might go check on his apartment, and the landlord says they moved out. They just bug out. You know, they get on a ferry or get on a plane, and they just leave town. They don't tell nobody nothing. They just put their tail between their legs and they leave. Not even man enough to tell their friends that they're leaving, so we don't have to worry about them. You know, did something happen to them? They go to another island. They just pack up and go. And a lot of cases, they leave their girl there. They ghost their girlfriend. And in the description below in the comments section, I'm going to leave a link to a story about one gentleman who ghosted his girlfriend. He bugged out. He left the Philippines and left her not knowing if he's dead or alive or anything. And then you get all the guys who are going to say, oh, this wasn't for me. The Philippines is not for me. And it's not, because you couldn't manage your money or your time or the situations you were in. But you just tell your friends, it's not for me. Or you're going to tell your friends, that girl I was with, she was such a scammer. And it's really not her being a scammer because you gave her everything. You enabled that to happen. So a lot of guys make up stories, that their girlfriend scammed them. They tell the girl to leave because they're leaving. And, it's just a lot of stories to save face. Saving face is a big thing in every culture. We talk about it here in the Philippines. Saving face is very important to the Filipinos, but it's also important to us. No one wants to look like they're a failure. So the guys, they got to go. They got no money. They blew through all their savings. They don't have no safety net anymore. All they have is their pension, their small Social Security check. They have no partner. They have no confidence anymore. No confidence that they could start over. They have no confidence that they could take that monthly check and make it stretch and slowly save some money, reestablish themselves here. They've just given up, and they just live with the regret. That's the worst baggage to be carrying home, the regret that you did everything wrong. You did a lot of things wrong. And it's not just leaving that hurts. It's knowing that you gave everything for this one last chance and you blew it. You took your golden years, your retirement, your savings, the happiness and all the joy prior to getting on that plane to come here to the Philippines or wherever you decide to retire. And now you're going back knowing you blew your one chance. You're going back to your home country. You're going back to the United States. You're going to have to live in a subpar apartment, couch surf with a brother or sister, move in with your kids, maybe still move in with your mom. Just not the life that you foresaw yourself having when you retired. It's just, all you have are all your broken dreams. And there's no dream left in the U.S. now. Now you're going back to just be on the hamster wheel. You're going to end up getting a job at Walmart. Hopefully they still hire greeters. Welcome to Walmart. Checking the receipts as they're walking out the door. Being a delivery driver for Domino Pizza. You're going to have to get one of those high-stress, low-paying jobs where you have to use your own car. And you're going back, you don't have a car anymore. You don't have a house. You don't have nothing. You gave it all here, and you blew it. You blew the chance. And you're going to go back, and your friends are going to ask you what happened. And are you going to tell them the truth? No, you're probably just going to lie about how bad it is there, how it's a hostile environment, how everybody lied to you about how good the Philippines is, how good it is to retire overseas. Your money goes a long way, and all that is untruth. But before you make that mistake, before you retire here in the Philippines, before you go any country, do your homework, do your research. Don't believe everything you hear. Boots on the ground, guys. Come here, check out wherever you want to retire full-time. Take a month trip, 2 months, whatever you can afford to do. Take a vacation, See if it's somewhere you want to be. Money management, good friends, have a community that you can rely on, make good friends. Don't be afraid to talk to expats to get their input. It's a lot of knowledge out there, a lot of years of experience here in the Philippines. And don't give up control of your money. And don't get so emotionally involved with someone you just meet for the first time. Give it some time to go by. You know, at least when you're 70, you only have so much left. But give it at least a year living together or dating before you decide if you're going to get married and make that big commitment. Don't make promises you can't keep. Set boundaries. Know your limitations. And one thing you have to do, you have to think about you. You are number one. Make sure you have everything under control. Make sure you have your emotions under control. You're emotionally ready for this move here to the Philippines. Loneliness, boredom, make sure those don't really affect you too bad. And have your money under control. Manage your money. Make sure you know where every dollar is going. Trust but verify. If your girlfriend is paying the rent, look for that rent receipt. If your girlfriend's paying the electric bill, look for that electric bill receipt. The receipts from the stores, from the Sari Sari store, from the Yokai Yokai store, wherever they go, ask for the receipts until you build up trust, because trust is so hard to establish. It takes years to establish trust. Remember all your friends that you have in the U.S. that you've had your entire lifetime. It took you years to trust them, decades. And how quickly someone can lose trust. And you're going to come here to the Philippines, meet somebody for a couple weeks or a month, and you're going to trust them with everything? Come on. Wake up and smell the roses. Do the right things. Do your homework. Plan and prepare. I can't emphasize enough on being prepared to come to the Philippines. Know the difference between winning and losing, guys. Until next time.